You're a small-time lawyer. You're competent enough to keep a roof over your head, but you're nowhere near getting your name on a skyscraper. You're 35, and financial pressure is choking you like a cheap polyester tie. Your parents are sick, the medical bills are stacking up, and your kid's tuition is due. The full weight of a shattered American dream is resting right on your tired shoulders. But don't worry today, the universe throws you a lifeline. Or so you think. You land the case of a lifetime medical malpractice suit against a big pharma giant. This is your golden ticket. If you win, you're pocketing 40% of a multi-million-dollar settlement. You'll be rich famous, and finally the successful son your parents deserve. Of course, life loves to tease people like you with hope. You dive into the trial with everything you've got, but it turns out the corporation has an army of white shoe lawyers who bill more per hour than you make in an entire year. They shred you in open court. You don't just lose, you lose on a humiliating legal technicality, and the judge publicly calls you a clown. The aftermath is a total train wreck. Your reputation is toast. After this disaster, nobody in the city would hire you to fight a parking ticket. And just when you think you've hit rock bottom, the phone rings. It's the hospital. They want the payment for your parents' treatment. Now, you look at the bills, look at your zeroed-out bank account, and realize that desperation has a very bitter aftertaste. Right, as you're checking current market prices for kidneys on the dark web, an old colleague crawls out of the woodwork. 2 years ago, he was as pathetic as you are. Now, he's driving a car that costs more than your mortgage and wearing suits that scream, shady money. He takes you to dinner and makes an offer you can't refuse. Or at least one you should refuse, if you had an ounce of common sense left. He wants you to work for some businessmen in Mexico. Yeah, the kind of businessmen who settle HR disputes with chainsaws instead of mediation. The cartels. He tells you all you need is a little flexibility, and you'll clear more cash in a month than a partner at a top-tier firm makes in a decade. At first, your conscience is screaming at you to run for the hills. But then you think about the hospital bills, your kid's tuition, and suddenly the screaming stops. You decide to roll the dice just this once. You lie to your wife with the straightest face you've ever pulled. You tell her you landed a big, international consulting gig, something boring and safe. You say goodbye to your family with a knot in your gut, hop into your friend's car, and head toward the promised land. The irony is thick enough to choke on your parents, did everything they could to escape to the States, and here you are, sprinting right back where they came from. After a few days of travel, you reach your destination. Your brain, poisoned by too many Netflix action tropes, expects a bullet-ridden shack where the alarm clock is a drive-by at dawn. But reality hits you with a face full of luxury. The office is pristine, AC blasting mid-century modern furniture the works. It's ironically 10 times nicer than the dump you used to call a legal practice back in the States. That's where they lay out the house rules. Only 2, and they're pretty straightforward. Rule number 1. You don't need to prove the client is a saint. You just need to prove the state is too incompetent to make a charge stick. Rule number 2, and listen close. You never ever turn down a client. Your first assignment arrives and you're braced for impact. But it turns out to be disappointingly corporate. No courtrooms, no drama. Just consulting. They're asking the same questions any boring Fortune 500 company would. How to optimize taxes legally. How to secure assets, and a lot of hypothetical scenarios that start with, let's say, my company finds itself in this specific situation. The session is smooth like a casual coffee chat. At the end, they hand you a paycheck 10 times your usual rate just for reciting Legal 101. Everything is so civilized and bureaucratic that you start to wonder if maybe you've just misjudged the cartels. Maybe they're just misunderstood entrepreneurs with a hyper-aggressive business model. A full week goes by. And honestly, it's laughably easy. Most of your day is just basic corporate handholding and the occasional creative coaching of witnesses. You know the drill you teach them to say, I don't recall, instead of, I didn't do it. You show them how to frame a direct hit as hearsay. It's easy money with zero apparent risk. You're 35 and feeling like you're 5 minutes away from becoming a self-made millionaire. Until one day, a special client walks in. He's not looking for tax advice. He wants you to help him forge evidence and stall the trial of a major kingpin. And this is where your ego gets ahead of your brain. You say no. Why stick your neck out? You've already made enough clean consulting cash to wipe out your debts. You don't need this headache. So, with all the confidence of a man who thinks he's still in a democracy, you turn down the gig. The man stands up, looks at you with eyes like frozen marbles, and walks out without a word. Congratulations, you just made a fatal mistake. You forgot rule number 2. You never ever turn down a client. 5 minutes later, your old friend walks into the office. He's not alone. He's brought 2 gorillas who look like they eat raw iron for breakfast. Before you can even say, hey, a fist connects with your jaw with the force of a Mack truck. You don't even have time to process the pain before your ribs get a personal introduction to their steel-toed boots. They give you a methodical, professional-grade beatdown until the lights go out. You wake up gasping as a bucket of ice water hits your face. You're zip-tied to a chair, bruised and leaking blood. Your friend, the same guy who brought you here, starts his lecture. He calls you ungrateful. He calls you a punk who doesn't know the pecking order. As his voice rings in your pounding head, a reality check hits you harder than any fist you chose to walk into hell, and you just realized there's no exit door. After the beatdown, your buddy decides to lock in your loyalty for good. He seizes your passport, fries your phone, and wipes out every trace of your personal freedom. Then he slides a recent photo across the table, your wife and kid playing at the park. With a smile that would freeze the devil's blood, he whispers, "Next time you tell a client, no." Or if you lose a single case in the future, the guy ending up in the ICU won't be you. The message is crystal clear. You don't own your life anymore. You're just another piece of corporate equipment on the organization's balance sheet. A week later, while your bruises are still turning that lovely shade of deep purple, a new client walks in. Theoretically, the request is simple. Practically, it's a suicide mission. You have to save a high-level capo from being extradited to the US. They aren't asking you to prove he's innocent. That would be a joke. The goal is laser-focused. You need to make sure he serves his time here in a local prison, where he owns the guards, rather than in a US supermax, where he'd just be another number in an orange jumpsuit. You know this is a legal train wreck. The DOJ doesn't exactly take no for an answer. It's a losing battle before the first gavel hits the desk. But then you remember the photo. You remember rule number 2. So with your stomach in knots and your hands shaking under the table, you take the case. You force a smile and say, "Consider it handled," even though your brain has zero clue how you're going to pull off this miracle. You lock yourself in a room with mountains of files for 3 days straight. Your diet consists of mainlining cheap caffeine and pure unadulterated panic. You know if you blow this, you don't just lose the case, you lose your family. You scan every line, every footnote, looking for a crack in the prosecution's armor, and then you find it. It's not a crack, it's a goddamn canyon. Trial day arrives. You walk into that courtroom, not as a defense attorney, but as a predator. Your goal isn't to prove innocence, that's for fairy tales. Your goal is reasonable doubt. The prosecution brings out their star witness, a cartel lieutenant, a rat, who supposedly knows where all the bodies are buried. They present his testimony as the gospel truth. But when it's your turn, you don't ask him about drugs. You ask him about his personal blog. With a shark-like grin, you reveal to the jury that this man firmly believes the government is run by lizard people and that the world actually ended in 2012. You ask the jury, can we really trust the word of a man who thinks his microwave is spying on him? Then you point out his plea deal. In exchange for snitching, his 30-year sentence dropped to 3. You paint him not as a reformed man, but as an opportunistic liar who'd swear the moon is made of green cheese just to save his own skin. His credibility evaporates in seconds. Next, the feds play an audio tape. A raspy voice ordering millions to be wired to the Cayman Islands. It sounds like a smoking gun. But you stand up and drop a simple, devastating question. Is that actually my client's voice? Without a biometric voice analysis, you argue the tape is inadmissible. You tell them, that raspy voice could be my client, It could be the prosecutor with a bad cold, or it could be anyone in this room. Without technical verification, it's just noise, not evidence. Finally, they pull out the heavy artillery, a cell phone recording, where the boss allegedly orders a hit on a federal agent. This should be the end. But you've done your homework. You demand to see the chain of custody log. You point out a critical 48-hour gap. From the moment the cop sees the phone to the moment it hit the lab, nobody signed for it. You look at the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, for 2 whole days, this phone was a ghost. Anyone could have touched it. Anyone could have uploaded that file, a crooked cop, a rival, anyone. Reasonable doubt floods the room. If the police can't prove who had the phone, the evidence is tainted. The judge bangs the gavel. Case dismissed. No extradition. You did it. You turned a monster into a victim of the system. You walk out of court shaking, drenched in a cold sweat. Your old colleague is waiting. He throws an arm around you like you just won the Super Bowl. He hands you a fat envelope, 40 grand in cash. He takes you to a luxury high-rise, 10 times nicer than your actual home, and hands you a phone. You call your wife. Hearing her voice almost breaks you. She asks why you sound weird. You lie through your teeth, telling her the job is tough, but everything's fine. While you talk, your colleague sits on the sofa, cleaning his nails with a flick knife. When you hang up, his smile vanishes. He leans in and whispers, "Good job, partner. But remember, if you say one real word to her or anyone else, your family won't just stop getting calls. They'll stop existing. They'll vanish so fast you'll wonder if you ever even had them. Enjoy the blood money." The phone call with your wife is rough. You've been together long enough for her to read your silences better than you read the law. She catches the tremor in your voice, that shadow in your eyes, that even 1,000 miles of distance can't hide. She asks you what's actually going on. You, being the professional coward you've become, tell her it's nothing, just work stress. She doesn't believe a word of it, and you both know it. But in your world, silence is a hell of a lot safer than the truth. That night alone in your golden handcuffs, you check your suit pockets. You find a folded scrap of paper. You have no clue how it got there. A reverse pickpocket. You unfold it, and the message turns your blood to slush. Someone claims to be an undercover DEA agent in deep cover. He writes that his team has been burned and wiped out. He's flying solo surrounded by wolves, and he can't finish the mission without inside help. Meaning you. The pitch is simple and terrifying. If you want to escape this hell and get your family under government protection, you have to play ball. The signal is straight out of a cliché spy flick. If you're in, you wear a red tie tomorrow. He'll find you. You sit on the edge of the bed, your heart hammering like a war drum. Helping the DEA is a guaranteed death sentence if you get caught. It's insane. It's a suicide mission. But then you look at the walls of your luxury high-rise, which now feel exactly like prison bars. You think about never watching your kid grow up. The fear of dying starts a cage match with the fear of living like this forever. In the end, desperation wins by a knockout. You search your closet. Tomorrow you're wearing the red tie. May God have mercy on your soul. Next morning you knot that red tie around your neck. You feel like an absolute idiot. You feel like a neon sign in a blackout screaming, "Hey, I'm snitching on the cartel, please put a bullet in my brain." You walk through the office trying to act natural. But your version of natural looks more like a glitching NPC having a midlife crisis. Every glance from the receptionist, every good morning from the rent-a-cop at the door, makes you feel like the jig is up. You're waiting for a secret password or a clandestine handshake. But nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. The day is terrifyingly normal. Night falls. You get back to your high-rise, rip off the damn tie, and reach into your pocket. Your heart stops. There it is, another scrap of paper. You're frozen. How the hell did it get there? You rewind the day in your head. Was it when you bumped into the janitor in the hallway? When you were packed like sardines in the elevator? Or maybe when your own bodyguard handed you a water bottle? This spy's stealth level is straight up supernatural. You read the note. Nice tie, now get to work. And so begins a paper trail romance, worthy of a bargain bin spy novel. The method is classic dead drop. 101. Write your messages on the back of cafeteria receipts, hide them inside a crumpled Starbucks cup, and toss it in the third-floor bathroom trash. It's disgusting, sure, but nobody audits the garbage, except apparently your DEA guardian angel. Through these stale coffee-scented notes, the plan takes shape. The agent doesn't want the street-level dealers. He wants the head of the snake. He wants the list. Not the employee payroll, but the other one the judges, the cops and the politicians who are officially on the take. That list is sitting in a secure server in the basement, a digital fortress that only you, the chief legal counsel and money laundering whiz, have legitimate access to. The plan. During the cartel's anniversary blowout next week, when security is boozed up and distracted, you'll slip into the server room. Copy the files onto an encrypted drive, then drop the drive in the executive bathroom at midnight. The agent grabs it, and at that exact moment, a DEA tactical team breaches the building. In the chaos, you get arrested and whisked away to a safe house in the States. It sounds perfect. It sounds heroic. It sounds like a 90% chance of a body bag and a 10% chance of peeing your pants. But there's no turning back now. You scribble your final message on a greasy napkin. Copy that. Midnight. Don't be late. You toss it in the bin and pray your luck isn't the next thing that gets trashed. Night falls, and it feels full of promise, or at least that's the lie you tell yourself at the secret meetup. Out of the shadows, a massive silhouette emerges. Your heart skips a beat because you recognize him instantly. It's one of the two heavy hitters who gave you the beatdown of your life a few days ago. You're ready to meet your maker. You think you're already a dead man. But surprise, the guy who cracked your ribs is actually your handler. He's your golden ticket to the witness protection program. You start the exchange. You hand over the hard drive with all the dirt. The big guy looks you in the eye and promises to get you out of this hellhole. But before he even finishes the sentence, a black pistol appears out of nowhere pressed against his skull. It's your supervisor. The plan has gone to hell. Or rather, the plan went exactly how you designed it. Let's hit the rewind button to last night. You were in your room staring at an empty suitcase. Fear was eating you alive. The DEA offered freedom, sure, but the cartel offered something more immediate, the ability to keep breathing. Your survival instinct, that cowardly parasite living in your brain, took the wheel. Instead of packing, you went to see your supervisor. You made a deal with the devil. In exchange for the DEA mole's head, you get a promotion, and you stop being the organization's human punching bag. You're finally part of the family. Back to the present. The giant reacts with godlike speed. He swats the gun away and kicks your supervisor back. He grabs your arm, desperate to save you. "Don't worry, brother. I'll hold them off. Take the drive and run," he screams. He doesn't have a shred of doubt. He thinks you both walked into an ambush. His only concern is getting you out alive. But you don't run. You break his grip and step back slowly toward the criminal's side. "I'm sorry," you mutter. The agent freezes, the realization hitting him harder than any bullet. In that second of pure shock, the sicarios take him down easily. They drag him into the darkness, and you know exactly what's waiting for him. No trial, no lawyers, and definitely no happy ending. The supervisor walks over, brushes the dust off his suit, and gives you a slap on the back. "Welcome to the club, kid," he says. You won. You're alive. You got your promotion. But as you watch the taillights of the car carrying the agent vanish into the night, the truth sinks in. You're something worse than a criminal. You're just human garbage with an impeccable survival instinct. Your betrayal served as the ultimate cover letter. As a reward for selling out the only decent man who tried to save you, you didn't get a paper bag full of cash. You got something much more valuable: access. They take you to the main estate to meet the big boss. You were expecting some scar-faced monster with ink up to his neck. Instead, you're greeted by a fragile-looking old man watering his orchids with the same zen-like calm he uses to order mass executions. The boss looks at you, smiles, and tells you that you've got a bright future. He says he likes pragmatic people, the kind who know when to sacrifice a pawn to save the king. And you, my friend, just proved you're a natural-born chess player. Instead of sending you back to the warehouse to hump crates, they decide to move your talent for manipulation into a more sophisticated environment. They put you on the organization's legal dream team. Turns out your total lack of a moral compass is an excellent transferable skill for criminal corporate law. Over the next 5 years, your life undergoes a radical transformation. You trade sweat and dirt for Italian silk suits and climate-controlled offices. You become a bureaucratic wizard. You make lawsuits vanish into thin-air launder money so efficiently the bills smell like they're fresh off the mint, and find legal loopholes where no one else even sees a crack. To the government, you're a respectable attorney. To the cartel, you're the plumber who fixes the financial pipes before they burst. You become indispensable. You're the #1 the guy who whispers in the ear of power. The boss doesn't see you as an employee anymore. He sees you as an adopted son, someone he can trust blindly. You've reached the top of the mountain, and the view is spectacular as long as you ignore the pile of bodies you're standing on. The day everyone dreaded finally rolls around, but for you, it's the day you've been prepping for 5 years. The big boss is finally in handcuffs. The list of federal charges is enough to make Satan sweat international narcotics trafficking, massive money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. The courtroom is packed to the rafters. He's sitting there smug as hell because he thinks he's got the best lawyer in the city and his most loyal lapdog right by his side. You stand up and give an Oscar-worthy performance. With surgical precision, you shred the police's arguments. You poke holes in the chain of custody. You make the prosecution's witnesses look like confused liars. Your voice booms through the room, dripping with fake outrage over the injustice being done to your respectable client. You see the judge nodding. You see the jury wavering. The boss shoots you a smirk, that arrogant look of a man who thinks he's above the law. He's already planning what he's having for dinner at home. The judge looks ready to toss the case for lack of evidence. The not guilty vibe is thick. But then it happens. The prosecutor stands up with a weird glint in his eyes. He asks to enter new evidence that hit his desk this morning from an anonymous source. The judge allows it. Out comes a black ledger and a stack of high-def recordings. This isn't circumstantial fluff. It's a minute-by-minute log of every gram sold, every bribe paid, and every hit ordered over the last 5 years. The room goes dead silent. The boss turns white as a sheet. He looks at you eyes wide, waiting for you to object to scream to do something to stop the bleeding. He knows only one person had the keys to that safe. But you don't budge. You just sit there calm as a monk adjusting your tie. You don't say a word. In that second, his face shifts from begging to pure horror as he realizes the double cross. He thought you were saving him from a cell, and he was right. He's not going to a cell. With this new evidence, life without parole is off the table. The prosecutor just asked for the death penalty, and you, his loyal counsel, just sit there and watch the gavel seal his fate forever. As the boss is dragged out of the courtroom, screaming curses your corrupt partner watching from the gallery, pulls out his phone shaking with pure rage. He dials the emergency line for the cleaners. His order is simple and brutal. Kill the wife and kids. Now. But on the other end, it's not a hitman who picks up. It's a federal agent. Your hitmen were neutralized hours ago. Your family is perfectly safe sipping hot cocoa in an FBI safe house. Turns out, you were never really a traitor. From the very start, that DEA agent knew he was going to be burned eventually. So he chose to sacrifice himself, betting everything on you. He's the one who convinced you, forced you really to hand him over, and use him as a stepping stone to win the boss's absolute trust. It was the only way to drag the entire organization into the light. You didn't betray him. You fulfilled his Hail Mary mission. Of course you still feel like a piece of human garbage for letting someone die for you, but you did it. Seeing the empire burn to the ground is your final tribute to that brave agent. The raid is massive. It's not just the big boss, every C-suite criminal in the organization is busted simultaneously. The verdict is ruthless. Some are headed for lethal injection alongside their leader. Others will rot in a cell, serving multiple consecutive life sentences. The cartel has been wiped off the map. And what about you? By the book for your years of laundering money and burying evidence you should be spending the next 150 years staring at a concrete wall. But the justice system is pragmatic. You handed them the apex predators, so they let the small fry swim free. Your immunity was the price for their heads. You leave the courthouse through a back exit. A black van with tinted windows is waiting. Inside, an agent hands you a manila envelope. It contains new passports, new social security numbers, and a brand new life story. You're moving to a flyover state where snow covers the ground 6 months a year. You're no longer the mafia's star lawyer. You're no longer the devil's advocate. That man died in that courtroom today. You step into the van and hug your family. The engine starts. For the first time in your life, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You're a nobody now. And being a nobody has never felt so damn good. That's a wrap for today. I've got more deep dives like this in the pipeline, so make sure to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the next drop. See you in the next one.